Welcome to the Select Car Leasing Stadium. I think there's as many as you here tonight as there was for the West Ham game the other day. So Rob's not going to score on his debut tonight though. So thank you for coming. Please ask questions. Rob has informed me that he loves difficult questions. He enjoys difficult questions. So please not disappoint him tonight. We've got a mixture of questions that have been sent in before as well. So if you are a little bit shy, I can kick things off. We've got a mic, so what I will say is though, if you want to ask a question, stick your hand up, and when you get the mic, just say who you are and your question. And like I say, Rob loves a difficult question, so don't be shy on that front either. So let's get things up and running. Ladies and gentlemen, your chairman, Rob Couhig.
Thank you very much, and thanks, Phil. Thank you guys for coming out. I think we can all agree one of the things is I'm not shy, and I'm willing to talk with people and try and discuss with you our plans for your club and how we can make it better together. I'm really honored tonight. One of my partners, Rick Catania, is with me tonight. And Rick's going to help us by, if you have a question, raise your hand. He will bring the mic to you and you can ask it directly. Phil, with your permission, what I'd like to do is just start off by giving everybody about a 3-minute overview of where we've been in the past 3 months and leave the questions to you. Obviously, there'll be some questions about the transfer period. You may or may not have seen where at one point I said that we have the potential to have a spectacular transfer window. There were those who disagreed with me. I'm going to stand my ground that when it's all over, and by all over, the end of the season, people will look back and say you did have a spectacular transfer window. We have done things behind the scenes that hopefully will make your life better in terms of the way we're addressing our ticketing, concessions. Today, you probably saw that we have taken back control of your fan shop, the concession, the merchandise. We're working with the concessionaires to make the food and beverage better. We've got lots of things in store over the next 6 months or so. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you where I found some fault with my own performance right from the get-go. And I may do it again, because I'm 75 years old. I don't think I've learned much in the past 75 years. I am by nature a very optimistic, enthusiastic person. Every day I wake up presuming that today will be better than yesterday, and I may be able to play a small part in making it better. That's what we're trying to do with this football club, and we're trying to inculcate in all of us, every person. I mean, we started our day off with a system-wide all-employee meeting to lay out the exact chain of command, organizational chart, but to make sure everybody knew, that we are committed to being a club that is innovative, global, people understand it, and we're going to get there by being honest, transparent, and committed to financial sustainability. All of our folks, and one of the things I'm most happy about is the people that have remained with us have been superb in what they've done. The people that we've brought in have brought in new life and vision, and they're doing a great job. And so things are coming together in my estimation, but we wanted to be with you tonight because it's easy to say it from my perspective, but you each have your own unique view of what's going on, and I want to answer those questions and learn a little something from you as to how we can do things better. So Phil, if you got a question, make it hard.
Okay, we're going to start off with a question that was submitted online because there were several that kind of covered the same topic. This one was from Alex Horton, but it was several of people on the same tip. He says, we've been second best in pretty much every game so far this season, 2 wins from 9. Why is Noel Hunt still our manager?
Well, when it said ask me a hard question, let me give you a different perspective. First, we inherited Noel, as you know. Joe and I looked at Noel and what he had done before we got here, and we found that he did an exemplary job last season, taking over a desperate situation, getting the club to play well for him, and how he was able to put the club together. We have certain criteria that we look at with the manager, and he met those. And then we looked at how did he proceed and get ready for this season. We knew we had to replace a bunch of people on the club. They had decided to move on because they got a better offer from a Champions Club. We didn't let them go easily. In Harvey's case, we demanded reasonable, or I suspect the other folks thought a little bit more than reasonable pay for him, and we got it. With our defender, and I always mispronounce his name, Mugabe, who went to QPR, I think.
Mbenge.
And don't tell him I mispronounced his name. We have refused compensation so far because they haven't paid us what we think is appropriate. So we're going into a tribunal. One of the things you may have learned about me is that we don't give in, we don't back down. We've come up with what we think is a reasonable amount to be compensated. He wanted to move on, he was entitled to move on, but we're entitled to be compensated for him fairly, and we're going to see that it happens. And we wish we could have settled it, and we might still, but we'll go to the tribunal and get it done. There were several players with us who wanted to go for their own reasons to other clubs, and candidly, we looked at what we offered them, and it was appropriate for how much time they likely would have played with us and whether they would have been in first position or second position or not, and so we lost them. So we set about rebuilding the squad. The first thing I wanted to do is to make sure I think our most valuable player was re-signed. Even though his contract wasn't up, we wanted to make a statement re-signing, so we got Lewis Wing to sign. Then to me, we had in our club the single best goalkeeper in League One last year, and we wanted Joel to come back, and so he was a big part of our plan. So we signed him. Now, most people wouldn't count either of those two people as significant transfer signings, but in our way of looking at it, new owners coming in, taking over a club that was in huge transition, we needed that stability and we needed those quality guys both on and off the pitch. The third person was the guy that we went for because even though I wasn't involved in the league last year, we knew about Party O'Connor, and we wanted him. He was the top defender. I wanted two top defenders in the league. He hadn't missed a game in 2 years. And so we made him our sort of signature signing to kick off the transfer window. We got him. And then we began, and I think I told people that they come in waves. You get a couple of them at the beginning, you get a couple in the middle, and you get a couple towards the end. And we were very fortunate to sign people throughout. And then, of course, in the last week when we got Jack Marriott and our winger, Matt Ritchie. Don't tell Matt I forgot him because he'll yell at me tomorrow morning. But we got in those two guys what we needed. We now have, I think, a great combination of youth, experience, and really veteran players who know how to play not just their positions, but know how to play the game and can direct what people are doing. So we worked with Noel on that, and I got impressed with what he was doing in his judgment on people. In many ways, he reminds me of my own evaluation methods. One, you want to judge the talent and what people do, but equally important, you want to judge the character of the person. You know, it's a long season, 46 games over almost 10 months. You want good people around you, and you want people, when you go through tough times, who you can depend on. And his selection methods proved a lot to us. The other thing is we wanted somebody who could be flexible, who wasn't married to one system or another. Now, some of us may have thought he should have changed earlier or later or whatever. Those are individual decisions. But I liked what he did every day. I like it even more today. And let me just tell you a couple of things that most people, because it's such a long season, we have a tendency to do two things. One, look at the last game and assume that's how we are, or look at 9 games and say, well, that must be how we are. I kind of break it into sections. In the first 3 games, before we had really signed anybody who was new to the club and could play, we got 0 points out of 3 games. The next 2 games, when we began to bring a few guys in, we got 2 points out of those 2 games. So we had 2 points after the first 5 games. And shockingly, we were down there at the very bottom. Interestingly enough, as the club has gelled, as they've listened to Noel, as his philosophy has begun to set in, over the next 4 games, we've won 2, we've tied 1, we got to 7 points, now we're at 9. And over the past 4 games, we've been playing almost as well as anybody else in the league. The problem is we've dug ourselves a little hole, but there's a long way to go. Let me answer the question. I never considered firing Noel. I don't believe that firing a manager suddenly turns a guy into a better striker or better defender. I don't think firing a manager changes anything as long as the players still support him, and our players absolutely support him. I don't believe that firing a manager does anything but take the pressure off of the owner, and candidly, I'm here to take that pressure. If you don't like what he does, blame me. If you don't like who we signed, blame me. Because ultimately, I'm responsible. And so Noel's our manager. He's doing a great job. He's going to become a better manager because he's learning. Most people forget that he only began managing about this time or a little bit after this time last year. And so all of us have to learn in our jobs. And so that gives me the final thing that both Joe and I looked at. Is he capable of learning, and does he learn from what he's doing? And in Noel's case, he is both capable, and he's proven to me that he is learning on the job, and he's going to be a better manager tomorrow than he is today. And I may have told many of you this before. My philosophy for evaluating talent, for evaluating a club, for evaluating anybody is, are they working at being better today than they were yesterday? And do they hold out the promise of being better tomorrow than they are today? And he met all of those criteria.
There we are. Right, who's got a question then in the building tonight? Who wants to ask a question?
It's cold out here, people.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Off you go, Rick. Rick Catania, everybody. That's very nice of Rick to do this tonight. It's a great way for him to meet some Reading fans. Can we have the mic on, please? Here we go.
Dave, you got to turn it on.
Well, no, it's okay. It's going to be done at the back there. Hold on a sec. It's all right.
Don't listen to me, Dave. Try it now.
Oh. Let me go and do this one.
Rick turned it off. We give him one job.
I feel like Kilroy showing me age now. Here we go.
Hello.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. Now that you've been here for a few months, what are your realistic expectations of what you think you can achieve, and over what time period do you think you may be able to do that?
It's a great question. I have not changed my appreciation of what we can achieve. There's no reason why this club can't be a mid-championship club within the relatively near future. I think we can contend this year to get promoted. I think it's going to be difficult. I probably, again, this is my personality. I am super ambitious and super optimistic, and I like to think things are going to turn out better. But over the couple of things, and if you don't mind, I'm going to use this as sort of to transition into the bigger question: what do I think we can achieve? This club can be a Premier League club one day. I'm just trying to put reasonable expectations and timing. We look at how do we build this club, and there's a couple of things that go on. I get amused some days. People would like us to, there's a group that says, oh, he doesn't have enough money to spend, and then there's another group that says, oh, he's just cheap and won't spend it. And then there's a group that's actually pretty rational and says, hey, the guy before spent 200 million pounds, and it actually ended up with the club being in worse shape than it was before he arrived. And maybe if you run it as a business and you help the fans build their club, it will turn out all right. I'm in that category. We look around this stadium. In League One, there aren't, Phil goes to all of them, there aren't 4 other clubs, I think, that can compete with this facility. If you look at our catchment area, where we're from, there aren't 2 other areas that can compete with us economically for what our fan base can do. If you look at our history, there's no other club that frankly deserves to go up the way we do if you just base it on history. But in order to get there, in order to do it in a financially responsible way, we, you, me, the club operators and the fans have to do some things differently. We have to give you a better experience every time you come here. That means the bathrooms have to be clean. I'm proud to tell you that we've started getting them cleaned, and you go into them now, they don't stink at least, and that's a small thing. We have to make sure that the sound systems work better. We're working on that. We have to make sure the Wi-Fi is better. We're working on all of those things. I made a mistake early days when I thought I could, and I'm sure some fans thought I could come in and flip a couple of switches and these things would happen. They're taking longer than I would have hoped, but we're on the road. All of that is to say we can build our club day by day, brick by brick, into being a financially sustainable club that can go out and bring in even better players, although I like our guys, who will make us compete and get promoted. And then once we're promoted, the sky's the limit. But we got to do it the right way. And part of that is, and the reason I'm here tonight, the reason Rick wanted to fly over and be with you tonight, is that it's got to be a partnership. One of the things that I've noticed is, for all of the griping about Mr. Dye, very few people griped when he wrote whatever check anybody wanted to make the club better. The Ties, when they had it, they were writing multiple checks to make the club better. And the fans, and candidly some of the staff, began to think that's how it operated. The emperor will come on and put the circus on for you, and you just come and cheer your club on. It is a community effort. The reason I like being involved with this club is a potential for us to regenerate the relationship between the club and the community. And so I think if I do my job right, this club, this community will produce bigger crowds, more revenue, bring in better players, and we will be a sustainable football club in the championship in the not too distant future. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a question from the online submissions. This is from Callum King. He says, why don't we have a director of football? We've got a head of AI, but not a director of football. Why is that?
I don't necessarily believe in directors of football. We have, and Brian is our director of recruiting, and candidly, he works as sort of a director of football. We have Joe Jacobson as our CEO, and he works as a part-time director of football. Noel has to take some of the responsibilities of it. And really, a director of football, and it depends on how you set it up, but in many places, he in effect does the manager's job the way I see it. He's in charge of who works for him. You had a director of football, did a fair job, but I don't believe in it. We have a system that allows us to go out and find the players we want. We have a system that allows us to find the manager that we want. We have a system that allows us to find the medical people and the other folks, all on the football side. This morning, I mentioned to you, we held a meeting of all the employees to lay out our staff. And it involved all aspects of the club. But we made it very clear that when it comes to football, it starts with Noel. Everything else is to support him in what he wants. And I would do that and frankly, if I hired another manager, he would have to do it or she would have to do it. I'll probably go with it's going to be a he though, not to tell stories out of school. But the reason is, if I go out to dinner, I want somebody who's cooking to have picked the vegetables, to have picked the entree, to have figured out what he's making and be responsible for it. I don't think it's fair to a manager to have somebody else picking his players for it. Now, there are two different schools. I've got a very good friend who's running a club differently, and he's a big believer in a director of football, and his manager is not even a manager, he's a coach, and it works for them. But for us, I want to be able to have a one-on-one conversation with our manager and be able to say to him, did we get you the players you wanted? You did. Are you winning with the players that you wanted? I am or I'm not for whatever reason. And for us to have that responsibility be focused that way. So.
All right, any questions in the room? Off you go, Rick, you've got a long journey here. If there's anything that Rob says tonight you want to question him on as well, now's the opportunity for like an instant reply on that as well, so don't be shy with the questions.
Way up at the top, Rick.
Come on, Rick, you're nearly there, mate, there we go.
If you or I ran up there, we'd never come back.
I'm interested to know what drove the decision to remove Fanatics from the merchandise side, and are there any other plans to bring stuff in-house that's currently done by third-party organisations that the club would be better doing themselves?
It's a great question. It's particularly appropriate because you obviously saw what we announced yesterday. My wife is a big believer that the merchandise that you sell should reflect the community from which you come. We went through the shop and when we first arrived here, and it looked, and look, I don't want to say anything bad about Fanatics. They did the job they were contracted to do. We just believe that it should be more related to this community. We think that we have a pretty good track record of figuring it out. We could not buy things in the United States through Fanatics as quickly as we wanted to be able to buy it. There was a lot of money involved, and it's cost us a lot to get out of that contract, candidly. But we think in the long run, it will produce more revenue for this football club and be able to generate, again, a higher SCMP, which is what it's all about. And we wanted a club, an operation where if you didn't like what you were buying, you could come in and complain. And we may or may not listen to you, or may not do what you want, but would listen to you. And if you had a great idea, we could implement it. Are there other aspects? Every aspect of the club is undergoing rigorous evaluation as we sit here, or stand here. Phil, in his group, he now has a 3-person staff plus himself doing public relations and media, is a complete revamp of the way we used to do it. We used to just rely on outside people to do the television and the radio and the e-follow and the like. We've done that in-house. I don't want to get into the whole AI thing right now unless somebody's got a question, but every aspect of what we do is being evaluated that way. And the analysis is pretty simple every time. What's the best way going forward to do it? What's the most reasonable way to use the resources of the club to produce a better result? Is that a good answer for you? Or at least a full answer? Thanks.
Okay, it's a question from Craig Sopp. He says, how do you balance player sales and sustainability in business and retaining and attracting key players to build a team for the championship?
That's a really good question, and it's one we struggle with, because in my accounting, and look, we're known as a selling club, and I've learned what that means, which is basically everybody there is for sale and we expect to bring in revenue on it. I get into arguments with our accountants who want to know how much money we're putting down in the revenue side for selling players as opposed to buying players and the like. And I am not a big believer in buying players. I would much rather get a free player and give him more money than give his club more money. I also think a lot of what people pay other clubs is more than people are worth. And we're fortunate, we have an academy we can develop kids with. Selling players produces revenue, but when you sell a player, you have to be very careful that you get more money than he's worth, and in terms, because you got to fill that hole. I do not allow us to use the potential of selling a player to ever go into our budget. Because as soon as I say, well, I'm going to put $1 million down because we're going to sell Jones, I'm now obligating myself to sell a player or two or three to get that revenue. If, on the other hand, we treat that money as sort of found money at the end. Oh my gosh, we did sell it because a kid wanted to go and we made £1 million. We can put that money swiftly into our SCMP because you're able to get that 100% allocation for it and use it to buy more players. We're also a little bit sensitive. We know we're going to sell X amount, and so in the back of our mind, it's there. Let me use this to talk about one thing about buying and selling of players. I get amused highly by what people believe you get for selling a player and what you get for buying a player. Nobody really looks at the numbers. They'll say, oh, they sold a kid for $1.5 million or $1.6 million, and they act like the money arrived the same day the kid left. Many times it's over 2 years, 3 years, and the league only allows you to use the money allocation for SCMP when it arrives. So it's a hard balance. It's one we fight over, candidly, in the office, because the coaches and the managers sometimes would like us to use a higher number. Sometimes I want to use a lower number. I will say this year, we have always used the higher number.
Craig has messaged in, Craig Tillen, and said, are there funds available for the January transfer window?
Yes.
Short answer, right. Questions.
Well, and let me give you this too, because I know for a fact, because we keep it, look, and it's funny, we watch and we have to negotiate still with the EFL because of a little history that clubs had. And so we had to submit a budget. We've submitted a new improved budget which shows actual performance as opposed to living with some of the things they made us do. We still argue with them about that. But in the past month and a half, Todd and I put in substantial money to make sure we were not handicapped in any way in terms of signing players.
Okay, questions in the room. Here we go, Rick. Another long journey. Come on.
I like what y'all are doing. Somebody down low ask a question, somebody way up high, we'll test him out.
I like it too, it's great. Hi, I go and watch the women as well as the men. And we had...
Excuse me, this lady was waiting in the bar for me, having a few drinks just to get ready to ask me what you said would be a very hard question. Go ahead.
We've got a much better team this year than last year, but what do you see unfolding for the women's team within the Reading brand?
It's a unique situation, and pardon me if I give you 2 minutes of history about it. When we thought we were buying the club 18 months ago, we had a plan to bring in somebody who could assist the women and keep them where they are. When we did not come in, the club made a determination to, in effect, turn it over to the trust. The trust had sufficient resources to sponsor the club, albeit at a much lower level. The trust was able to work a deal with Joe and I first day where we agreed, the club, unbeknownst to me, had agreed to a sponsorship of the women's team using my money. And we agreed day one that we would continue that sponsorship this year, and I think next. Ultimately, what's got to happen for them, and we're prepared to do this, is when the right person or persons come along, we will allow them to use the right marks, you know, the trademarks and build a club. Or one day, after we've dealt with the Tigers, whose tail we presently have, we will begin to turn our attention to it. Right now, though, candidly, we can't.
Interestingly, I listen to Price of Football, and this week they've interviewed the owner of Farnham Town. And one of the things he said is that because of the flat nature of the women's game, the FA Cup is very much more valuable in the women's game than it ever is in the men's. And that it actually makes financial sense to support the women. He's actually started a women's team, and they got to the first round, through the first round of the FA Cup, and it paid for the whole team that season.
May be true. I don't know how much he's paying for his players. I don't know what he's paying for his coaches. I don't know what he's paying for his practices. I don't know how many balls he buys at $100 a piece. But I'll go back and listen. I like to listen to the broadcast anyway. But I don't want to give you any false hope that, my gosh, we'll get them into the FA Cup and that'll do it. I think he's telling that to himself in some ways, that it's going to be okay.
We have a cup game on Sunday, so if anybody wants to come along and support.
Where is the game?
Slough, Arbor Park.
Okay. Well, make sure, and Phil, I'm sure will mention that on Saturday during our match. And Saturday, Slough, Sunday, at what park?
Arbor Park in Slough at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Sunday, Arbor Park, the women's team. Get out and support them. How much does it cost?
I think our season ticket was £30.
Okay, £30. Good.
Right, Theo O'Donnell. Short question this. If it all goes wrong, which many people seem to think it will, what's your plan?
If what goes wrong?
He just says all. I'm not sure if that's about Reading or the world, but if the
world goes wrong, I'm glad I went on retreat last week and did that with my religious group.
Let's talk about Reading. If it goes wrong at Reading, if all goes wrong at Reading, what's the plan?
Let's define what all going wrong could be. The worst calamity would be all of these fine people stop coming to the game, the sponsors don't sponsor us, the club gets relegated, people turn on me and say, hey, Rob, you're an idiot, and it all goes. I don't think there's much chance of that. If what he means is we don't get promoted this year or don't get to the playoffs, we buckle up and we get ready and start over, and we're always ready to be better. If what he means is we get promoted and we get challenged in the championship, we'll make ourselves better. If in fact what he means is in 2 years we're in the Premier League and it looks like we might be in danger of relegation, we'll work harder to be better. My response to any problem is just to look it in the eye, try and figure out what's the best course, and work harder to make ourselves better.
Okay, is there any questions? Right at the back there, perfect. Off you go, Rick.
Oh my God, they're doing that on purpose. And in the middle, Rick.
It's a good way to meet people, Rick. Come on, this is it.
I just wanted to ask about the academy. First of all, thank you for committing to continuing to fund it. But how difficult is it to maintain Category 1 status when we're in League 1, particularly given that you're basically competing against Premier League clubs, and particularly given the revenue difference between the clubs that we are competing with at that level?
It's a great question. I met at 8 a.m. this morning, or either this morning or yesterday morning, they kind of blur together, with Michael Gilks, who's our head of the academy. Gilks, I've butchered every name so far, so why stop with his? About exactly that question. One of the things that Michael told me is that he had never been given a budget before this year, and he's actually enjoying trying to work it and learn how to do better on the budget. I have been super impressed with his diligence and work effort on it. We get a stipend from the Premier League, just as all the other Category 1 teams do. And we have passed the audit to suggest, that says that we will continue to be a Cat 1. One of the things he told me that I was unaware of is that the number of Category 1 academies has actually grown. We're up to 29 now from, it used to be just Premier League teams. There's one that's trying to come into being down the road from us in Wickham. And I asked the question, how hard is it to compete? Mostly it's not as hard as you might think. We don't necessarily get all of the top level guys who have already gone to Tottenham or Chelsea or wherever. But we're getting a lot of those guys who are kind of hanging in there or were just released from there and that we think we can make better under our system. And so, and look, the proof's in the pudding. We've had 8 of our guys on the under 21 team play this year. We have a couple of guys on the under 18 team play. And so we're bringing them along as best we can. I think we're going to be there. Yeah, it costs money. It probably a loss this year. We project somewhere in the neighborhood of £2.5 to £3 million. But we knew that when we came in. And candidly, that's the least of the lost things that we have trouble with, not trouble with, but have to deal with. The operation of the training ground. Massive deficit in terms of operating expenses. But it's a big part of the club and we want to keep it going. And it helps us attract players and it helps us attract people to the academy. So all of these things go into it. And we will be able to maintain that Category 1 academy, as far as I know, as long as I'm around.
David Hoyle has written in saying, Reading fans have been saying that the stadium is due for some improvements and upgrades for a long time now. What are your plans for the stadium?
We're going to upgrade it and improve it. I agree with it. Let me not be facetious about it. If you look across, it is an embarrassment to me that the seats haven't been redone or painted. And it's a simple thing, but we can get to that and we will. The bathrooms, I talked about the TV, or I'm sorry, the CCTV, the electrical or speaking systems, the Wi-Fi. We're working on all of that. On a bigger issue, and I'll bring you into sort of the confines of our discussion, and it gets into the first question of the night of what else are we going to bring inside or take outside. We're looking at who should operate the stadium. This stadium is only used right now, we use it for events, but small events upstairs. We use it 25 to 30 times a year for football, but many, many, many days it sits empty and unused. We began the process when I was over here 2 weeks ago of beginning to interview people about taking over and becoming much more active in bringing events here, becoming much more active in helping us to run the concessions, the food and beverage, to assist. We have a great group with Elegant, but maybe they could use some assistance. We're looking at how do we maximize the use of all the space more often. Yeah, so that if I was a betting man, and I am not, I would say that it's likely that we're going to do something substantial with the stadium and be ready to announce it by the 1st of, I get in trouble when I make dates, sometime in this season, about how we're going forward.
This season?
This season.
Okay. Question.
I was going to say by October 12th, but I'm going to go with this season.
Thank you. It's made my life a little easier. Yes, sir. Rick, down this way, please. Is everyone keeping warm enough? Is everyone okay?
Just going to ask that question. We should be standing, all of us, underneath those lights. And if anybody who thinks I'm cheap, it's not true that the first thing I did when I walked in is say, who turned those on?
Firstly, thanks for the opportunity to come and ask questions and hear your plans. Having travelled to many League One games over the last couple of seasons, a lot of the grounds are now going with safe standing sections. Any plans to create one, not necessarily just in Club 1871, but around the ground so everyone can enjoy that different experience?
Your question actually is a great relief to me, but because it tells me that the staff that we have working with us actually have their ear to the ground about what we need to do. After our all-hands staff meeting, we went into a meeting about the stadium, and one of the questions that came up is, what about putting in safe standing seating? And that I know is on Neil Peters' agenda to explore and look at. And you're right, they talked about in the 1871 section, but there's a couple of other sections we want to deal with. And this gets into how we're going to fix up the stadium. We want to make it a little bit easier on the wheelchair accessibility coming into the stadium. I know that's not what you asked, but I get to use your question to answer some other things. And that will help, which led to another discussion about, you know, when you bought the stadium, you thought you were getting a lift that works, and we discovered that it fell apart in the past week or two and it stopped working, so we have to fix that. So it's on the agenda. I have no idea when it happens, but I would hope by this time next year it would be in place. Now, how many years this is? I got no idea. I don't understand the whole safe standing versus stand behind the pipe and don't run over your neighbor, but we're going to follow the rules.
Okay. Considering the amount of negativity you've experienced online, do you regret buying Reading Football Club?
Well, that's not why I regret it. Look, you know what? I have my issues with a lot of the people who are negative online. But the truth is, I don't belong to, I guess I understand I have a Facebook page left over from when I ran for mayor 20 years ago. My wife reads these things. She tells me it upsets her sometimes because she says, don't these people understand? But you know what? People can do what they want. What's the old thing you tell your kids? Sticks and stones. So.
Is it better that people are writing that rather than not writing anything at all?
No. Nice try. What I would rather, in fairness though, and I actually talked with Louis Wing and Joel this morning about it, because they're senior pros. They understand it. They, like me, worry about what it does to some of the young kids on the club, because they do read social media. they do see people trashing them. 22-year-olds, 19-year-olds, calling them names. I'm 75. There is not a name they could call me I haven't heard before. But you've got a 19-year-old or a 22-year-old or even a 32-year-old doing his best for your club. And these guys get behind their door and they think they're cute by calling. That offends me. But it doesn't mean I regret buying the club. What it means is I'm going to work harder to make it harder for them to find something to criticize us about. Pure and simple. So, pardon me for, hey, I did pretty good. I didn't lose my temper yet.
Any questions in the room? Oh, here we go. Rick, short journey this time, mate. I've been looking after you. Look. I have to go around. Okay.
Unless you got to go all the way around. Oh, look, Rick, you only have to go to the bottom row.
In your own time, Rick, come on.
Jesus.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming out. Couple of questions. I work for a big corporate, and we get hammered about ethics and compliance and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Right.
I've got a theory that things happen in the football club that would make my hair curl. Can you tell me the things that made your hair curl that you found?
Or lose your hair.
Or lose your hair.
Yeah.
One of us. Can I tell you what? What do you want to know? I'm sorry. I got so excited by my own joke.
What things have you found since you've been here, financially especially, that have made your hair curl, or you weren't expecting to find?
I have to be very careful about. No. It's not that. We are in a dispute with the seller. And the lawyer in me, the owner in me wants to tell you the category of horrors. The lawyer in me says, keep your mouth shut until it's resolved. So with your permission, when I come back, and I'm going to come back before then, but when we come back over the Christmas holidays, we'll find a forum where I can answer that question for you. Is that fair? Yes.
Okay, next question in the room. Here we go.
And look, people ask me about my partners in this. Rick is a great example. Rick's family does well, and they've been financially helpful to the club and the like. But what he brings is a different perspective. You may not recognize it, but he's younger than me. And he sees the world differently, and he actually played the game. And so it's great to have him with us. And Todd and Ross and the guys, and so I wanted to point that out to you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
Hello. I've got to ask, what made you have fireworks and fireworks at every home game, and will it always be every home game?
Man, I love them. You know, and let me tell you a true story, because I know that there is an element of English football fans who think, what a silly waste of money. And why aren't we spending that money on a player or something like that? Well, we spend all the money we need to on players. Saving that money would not let us get a better player. I was criticized at the former club occasionally because we had fireworks and people would make the same comment. But I am always reminded of the day I walked out of the field after the game and we had the big fireworks, and a guy came to me and said, Rob, I just want you to know I'm here tonight because, and my wife's with me, because our two kids love the fireworks. They come and watch the soccer game because they want to watch the fireworks. So what did we do with those fireworks? We, in effect, created two new fans. And he was quick to tell me, and the wife wasn't coming without the fireworks. And we created a family event for them. And how much did it cost us? Well, it cost us, I'll let you in on this, for the fireworks on a Saturday to the little pyrotechnics that go on before the event cost us about £4,500, which is a lot of money. But it brings in more than 200 people, which pays for itself. And it creates fans. And it creates the excitement that when you find out what we're going to do in January, is it November? That we're going to blow the top off this place with fireworks? People will be excited and they'll want to be here. Even the people who hate fireworks will go, well, I guess I'll have to go and see where he's wasted my money. And I will be here because, let me repeat what I said at the beginning, I love fireworks. Go ahead. And did you know that they all come from a local place? One of the great places in all of the UK is right next door, and that's where our fireworks come from.
Okay, we're warming up out there in terms of the questions. Yes, sir.
All right, this is a rebuttal because we sit over there in the 6th row and those smoke fireworks are unbearable. I love my season tickets until this year. And now I don't want to enter the stadium until those fireworks have gone off. The flames, that's cool, but you're gagging us over those smoky fireworks. I'm just telling you.
I appreciate you telling me. We've reached it. We understand each other.
Any more questions here? Okay, right, here we go.
More on fireworks.
Hi, I've got a question to revisit that you spoke about earlier about not believing in having a director of football.
Yeah.
If the ambition is to get the club to the mid-championship level, surely there comes a point in time where the bandwidth of the likes of Noel and Joe and other people is going to be stretched so thin where if they need or want the club to be competitive, the structure of the club and the boardroom level is going to have to be evolved to bring in a role to achieve that, right?
Yeah, it may be. I'm not saying it's a never deal. I'm saying at this point in where we stand, in my mind, it's not necessary and would not add to the equation. As we go down the road, I may turn out to be wrong. I've been wrong before about things, and we're going to look at it. Every aspect of the club is examined with regularity and will be. So, don't be shocked when next year the director of football is talking to you. Don't be shocked if there's not one.
Next question. Who had a question there? Here we go.
Hi. Just following on from what you were saying about the stadium earlier, are you able to comment on the land outside, who that's owned by, and if there's the potential for Royal Land Park still happening, would the club have a stake in that project?
I'm a little bit conflicted in that I can answer these questions, but there's a guy attending tonight that actually gave a demonstration of what they're building or proposing to build tonight. I think there is great potential for the build out here. The club is unlikely to, as a club, to have an ownership interest. Some of the owners of the club are equally likely to perhaps have an interest. We are having active discussions. Now, let me go on and say, one of the things that we discovered after we bought the club was that we were told that there was a deal in place on the parking and that the club was going to get all the revenue on the parking. Just got an email to that effect. Shortly after the agreement to purchase was announced, we received a note from the people who own the parking lot who told us that wasn't quite true, that there had to be an agreement as to how we would do it. Fortunately, they were good people. We've worked it out with them, and our revenues are going to be down 50% from the parking from what they used to be, and they're going to, in effect, be our landlords on the parking. We're working with them constantly to try and come up with a better system to park people, make it more economical, choose the events we choose, what they choose to charge for them and the like. So I think the overall development's going to happen. I think it's going to be good for the club. I think we'll learn a lot more over the next year or so. But the parking lot is a particularly sensitive subject to me since it cost the club about £500,000 a year from what we expected by way of revenue.
Next question. Let's have one from this young lad down here.
This man? Come here.
There's one here.
It's coming down.
You want 1 and 2? We'll come to you in a sec. It's okay. Off you go, mate.
What do you think of the home and away attendance this season?
Attendance? I think that when I'm being candid, the home attendance has been good, not great. I think some of that is my fault because in some ways maybe I built up people's expectation unintentionally about how good I think we are. And then some of the people began to negatively comment on how the club's doing, even though we're doing fine ultimately and will do better. The attendance away has been spectacular. The fact that people follow this club wherever they go is great. And it shows you really the depth of commitment this community has to their club. So.
That chimes with a message we got. This wasn't really a question, more of a statement, I guess, but you can respond to it. Keir Greytalk, I believe you have failed to manage expectations and you've gaslit supporters at the beginning of the season. What's your response to that?
Well, he could have said it nicer. I disagree. I told you I'm an enthusiastic person. I believe every word I say. And I believe what I said in the beginning is going to turn out to be good, right. We're going to be a good club. We have already started to prove we're a good club. When we get more time playing together, we'll be even better. Our manager is learning his craft as the players are learning each other. He's getting better. The club surrounding the football is getting better. Our fans are starting to recognize that the club is better than a lot of people on social media want to call them out for. And so I didn't gaslight anybody. Maybe I gaslit myself. Maybe I wasn't as good a judge as I thought I was, and I didn't understand how long it took for players to come together. One thing I will tell you, and I don't know if this is of any interest to anybody, but when you're dealing with highly skilled professionals, both sides have highly skilled professionals. The difference between one side and another in this league is minute. And so little things like a particular person being injured, or 2 or 3, or new guys joining that hadn't played together before, gets exponentially bigger when you play against an experienced squad or people that can exploit those weaknesses. And we suffered a little bit of that early days. So, no, I didn't gaslight anybody.
Michelle Harmsworth-Rose, this is LinkedIn as well. She says, why were so many players signed so late in the window? Pre-season became difficult because of that, and only one striker. That was her question.
Well, fortunately, I had a chance to talk to my buddy Todd about this, who took to Twitter to tell me I should hire a striker. I said, Todd, I was in your office this morning, and you were in mine this afternoon. First, he got excited by the whole idea of social media, too. So, you don't go to the local Tesco to buy a striker. I looked it up, and there were 92 other clubs looking for a striker this year. Everybody always wants a striker, and so you have to figure out where can you go and get them. And then remember my philosophy, a theory, that the transfer window runs in waves. There are people available right away. Most of those people have been talked to by the time the transfer window opens. There's a period in the middle when a few people are, and then there are those at the end. We had picked out a striker, and this is 100% my fault. We had a striker that we were told had signed or was going to sign for us as soon as he came in. He was an overseas striker. We thought he was going to be good for the club. We agreed to terms with him. He was on his way here, and the next thing we knew, he was in Europe signing for a team over there. I should never have allowed myself to talk about getting somebody like that in. The other thing is that, you know, when as the end of the transfer window comes about, we had a chance to move forward and make some moves, and Jack Marriott was not available until we got him. The day he was available, we went about our business and got him signed. And I dare say, if you look at the results from our transfer window in terms of a striker, nobody else has signed a striker that got 4 goals in 4 games. So there you go. I don't know if that answers the question. Anybody else getting cold? Just asking for a friend.
Any more questions? Yes, mate, down the front here.
Rob, I think in the modern game, so much of selling out the stadium is storytelling, and the players all seem like such a decent bunch of lads away from the pitch. I heard something about you potentially letting documentary crews in, and wondered if you think you consider that and think that's potentially a positive move. And also, just to say to Phil, the stuff you're doing on social media about storytelling is brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2 things on that. We actually have a fellow we discovered who's following us around from America to write a book on it, on the difference in approach between where the club was before we took over and now, and you'll see him around. I think he jumped up at the, where was that place? The Purple Turtle, and announced himself to the world. And we have been honored to have several documentary groups talk to us. I don't know if they've decided to do us or not. I know we've given up. It's a little hard on me. I have to give interviews. And, you know, I'm shy about that sort of stuff. But no, there are 2 or 3 different ones talking to us now. And of course, that's exciting from an ego standpoint, but really it's exciting from a club standpoint. As you say, the story of this club is unique in the annals of English football. To have been where you were 5 years ago when you were the richest club around, striving to get ready to go to 7 years, I guess, to go to the Premier League again. To go through all that money and to rebuild the structure, and even though the more money that went in, it seemed like the more you went down. And then to have this guy from Louisiana and his buddies come in and buy the club, it's a great story. And I think the real story, though, at the end, if it's written the way I hope we end up being, will be the relationship between us and you guys, and what it means to a community to really work together to turn it around. So here's hoping that, and you know, Brad Pitt could play me, I guess, but maybe we'll get somebody else.
Wow. Any more questions?
One more.
One more, okay. This mate, it's a good one, mate, no pressure.
And look, let's do this. Since he was the last person, only person to raise his hand just now, it's going to be the last question unless he creates a controversy of some sort. Because I don't want to be responsible for anybody's death. I can see the guys on social media. Couhig infected 12 people. Go ahead.
I'll try my best, Rob. Just as a question on the style of play.
Yeah.
I went to a lot of the games last year when Ruben Sellers was manager. I think there's a clear difference. I know you was at the game as well at the start of last season. What do you say are the differences? And a lot of the fans, like myself, I enjoyed watching Ruben and the team, and I see a lot of differences between Noel Hunt's style of play and that. So what are yours? Thank you.
I got to tell you, we've finally gotten to a question where I don't think I have any expertise at all. And I mean that sincerely. I loved Ruben, and you may know this, Ruben and I actually became friendly in the short time we were associated with the club. I think that he had a style of play that he felt comfortable with. And I do know this, it was very entertaining. and people like to be entertained. I mean, that's why you come out here. You want to be entertained. I think that the Knowles approach to it is slightly different, but it's getting more entertaining, not less. I think the changes, and now I'm getting a lot of this from Rick, who explained it to me, the changes that he made during the game last week sort of brought a different approach to it that's, for a fan, a little bit more exciting. But the thing I will say most is that what most people find exciting is the score at the end. And we've got to do more to do that. So it's a terrible answer for you, and I apologize, but I am not an expert in the game.
Okay, we've got one last thing to do before we wrap up. We did a competition for people who bought a ticket for the Leyton Orient game, including season ticket holders, to win a signed shirt. We did the random number generator in the office a few days ago, number 1241. The name came out. I think they're here tonight. If they are, Chris Scott has won a signed shirt. Is Chris here? Come on down, mate. You've won a shirt.
Oh my God. I didn't pick it, I can tell you that. Oh, I'm willing.
A signed shirt, Chris. There you go. Right.
All right, brother. Congratulations.
Let's have a photograph of you guys. Hold it up.
What?
Where are we going?
Where are we going?
Come here, mate. Come on.
Come on.
House.
All right.
Yeah, hold it up as well, mate.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's not ideal being outside. All the rooms have been booked out for commercial stuff, which is great news for the club. Not so great news for you guys sitting out here in the cold. Really, really appreciate you coming down. Please put your hands together for the chairman, Rob Couhig.
Thank Rick.
And a big warm welcome for Rick as well. It's his first time over since pre-season. Big game on Saturday. A big 3 points will make a huge difference to the table. I think we're really big in the right direction on the pitch as well. I think Rob would agree with that too. You guys can play your part on Saturday. Get behind the boys. Keep coming down. Bring your neighbours. Bring your friends. We've got a lot of seats to fill in this stadium as well. I think the message tonight, Rob, is that we can all do it together, right?
Absolutely. We're going to either do it together or we're not going to do it at all.
There we are. See you Saturday. Yours!